welcome back to the Space School, otherwise known as PPSW, your favorite hangout place, and we're back with another Star Wars story. Today we're doing the duel between General Grievous and Kit Fisto, and what would have happened if Kit Fisto had beat General Grievous. Because from a little tidbit that we need to know about Kit Fisto is that his Form 1 allows him to beat General Grievous in combat because of the unpredictability in the form that he uses. Form 1 has a lot of unpredictable strikes, and those strikes bypass anything that General Grievous' cybernetics allow him to see. So, before we go into the actual story itself, thank you all for all the support you show on the channel. Shout out to George Story for being our first Patreon member and supporting the channel so much. It is greatly appreciated. If you want to help out the channel and support what it is that I do, Patreon link is right down below, alongside of the Twitch and Twitter and Discord and all that stuff. So if you want to go support the channel or just join multiple different communities, those are down below. Now let's get into the story, because our story begins minutes after the death of Nadar Veb, the former apprentice to Kit Fisto. The arrogant Mon Cala Jedi was foolish enough to take on General Grievous alone. This resulted in his near immediate death. Fisto was left alone in the lair of General Grievous. He had two escapes: his astromech, who could fly a ship to pick him up, or he could kill General Grievous himself. Fisto wasn't necessarily struggling with Grievous in combat. Fisto and his men had almost killed the droid general. If Kit could finish off the kill, the Republic could have a massive victory early on in the Clone Wars. Kit Fisto journeyed throughout the corridors and found his dead apprentice. His lightsaber was missing. Fisto was alone. He knew that this fight would end in only one survivor. General Grievous had been known for a short period of time, but his reputation was that of a Jedi killer, someone who would kill without remorse and take the blades of the fallen Jedi as trophies. General Grievous killed like it was a sport, and won like a prized hunter. Kit Fisto was a bit nervous. He had no clue where General Grievous could be, or what he was doing. Kit Fisto was extremely cautious, peering around corners and stepping gently to avoid any more booby traps that were hidden inside of this lair. Kit eventually saw a door and made his way for it, thinking that possibly General Grievous would have tried to escape. Instead, he heard clacking on the floor, and as he saw General Grievous on all fours running towards him, he turned around to fight him. Fisto ignited his blade as General Grievous lunged from the floor at him. Kit Fisto was quick on his feet as he parried while taking 2 steps backwards and finding himself in a balanced position.
You might have been a proud warrior once, but now you're just a pawn in Dooku's game.
I wield great power, Jedi fool!
As Grievous pushed his offensive, Kit Fisto was ready to defend himself from the attack.
That power will only consume you.
General Grievous laughed as he pushed his attack on the Jedi Master, who was doing a decent job of holding him off, and then Kit Fisto pushed back using his Form 1 to offset the General's assault. Fisto had to play this carefully, but as he began to focus on his duel with Grievous, he heard the spinning staffs of 4 Magna Guards begin to surround the Jedi Master. Kit Fisto began to feel his heart race. He ducked below a strike by Grievous while throwing his blade at a Magna Guard behind him. Grievous laughed again as the 4 Magna Guards pressed their assault. Fisto swung his blade between 2 of them and then kicked his leg out towards the 3rd. The 2 droids blocked the jab as they moved into parry position. Kit Fisto then pulled back as he let them strike forward, both of them missing him. Fisto danced in a circle, swinging his blade into a chaotic array of emerald. Kit Fisto pulled his blade around and clashed with General Grievous, who was swinging his 2 blades down onto the Jedi. Grievous was a strong duelist, and Fisto could feel the pressure on the other side of his blades as he held his defense. The Magna Guards creeped in on him, and Fisto waited until they were ready to strike. Fisto closed his eyes with the thoughts of, "I am one of the Force, and the Force is with me," running throughout his mind. As he felt the movement of the 2 behind him, Fisto used all of his strength to push the blades of General Grievous into the air, as Fisto himself jumped up and backwards over the Magna Guards. The Magna Guards themselves shoved their electrostaffs forward and landed their blows into the stomach of General Grievous. He cried out in pain. Fisto from behind cut down 2 of the Magna Guards, leaving 2 more remaining, both of which standing beside him, spinning their blades. They swung their staffs and caught Fisto in the back. The Jedi Master dropped to the floor immediately. Grievous was still reeling from the shock he took. As Fisto had to recover, he kicked back and pulled his body up around to face the 2 guards. He needed to be quicker, because General Grievous was going to be gaining on him soon. Kit Fisto lunged up towards the 2 Magna Guards as he pushed them back as the droid general continued stepping towards him. Fisto was quick to recoil, but not quick enough as General Grievous' blade plunged into the garments of the Jedi Master, barely missing the Jedi stomach. Fisto swiped down and cut off General Grievous' left forearm. Grievous reeled backwards in pain as he coughed, opening up his 2 right hands as he ignited another lightsaber. Fisto, on the other hand, grabbed the lightsaber from the ground that had just fallen, and it was the blade of his former student, Nadar Veb. Fisto ignited the blue blade and clashed with the Magna Guards at the same time as he engaged General Grievous. Light brightened the entire room as Fisto thought on what he should do next. His gut said Grievous, but the Force told him the Magna Guards, so Fisto trusted the Force. As he pushed Grievous's blades back and spun into the guards, using his strength, he pushed back and forth, throwing the two guards off their attack patterns. Fisto continued to draw on his strengths to take advantage of the situation. Outmatched but not outskilled, Fisto swung down with his left blade, cutting off the legs of a Magna Guard while spinning around to rip off the droid's head with the other lightsaber. Fisto then drove forward, cutting into the final Magna Guard. Grievous chose to fight or flight, and he began to run. Fisto wasn't letting him get away this time. Using Nadar's lightsaber, he speared it at the general's back. It missed, but landed in the back of the general's legs, throwing him to the floor. Grievous whined in pain as he looked back to see the smiling face of Kit Fisto. Kit Fisto slashed down, but was blocked. General Grievous would not give it up. He was giving his all until the very end. He was a warrior, after all. But at this point, it was not enough. Kit Fisto was going to kill the good general. After the battle, Kit Fisto then immediately got into contact with the Republic. The Jedi Council was notified of Fisto's great victory over the droid general. The Jedi would dispatch a small fleet to Fisto's location to help him sort through any information that Grievous might have on the Separatist alliance. The Republic aid got to Fisto and their search began. Meanwhile, as the days to weeks began to pass by, Count Dooku would come to the realization that his most prominent general had been defeated by a Jedi Master on his home turf. Dooku decided that the best approach to the loss of General Grievous was to place his assassin, Asajj Ventress, in command of the droid armies, to fill the role of the late General Grievous. Ventress wasn't quite militaristically capable of leading the droid army. She wasn't a warrior in her life like General Grievous was before he became more machine than man. Asajj was a former Jedi. Dooku trusted her, and he believed in her ability to succeed. Sidious was aware of this move, and wasn't particularly fond of it. He saw it as a direct threat to his power from Dooku, and while Dooku never saw it as such, Palpatine was quick to get a hold of his apprentice.
Lord Tyrannus, I sense your relationship with your assassin is clouding your judgment.
Dooku tried to speak up.
Silence! You must have her terminated, if you want to remain my apprentice.
Dooku helplessly nodded on the other side of the hologram, as it abruptly ended. Dooku got up from the ground and sat in his seat. He stroked his beard and thought of what he needed to do next. It wasn't too early in the Clone Wars. Nothing was decided yet, and Anakin Skywalker wasn't ready for the grand plan. So, what if Dooku flipped the script? What if he took over the plan? What if he killed Sidious? The Separatists had a large enough military to conquer 3 galaxies. So, what if he and Ventress assassinated Sidious, and then Anakin could become his apprentice? Dooku immediately reached out to his assassin and requested that she return to Sereno from the battlefront to talk with him. When she arrived, she was informed that Sidious wanted her killed. Dooku remarked that it seemed as if she were a direct threat to his power. She still had much to learn, but it were possible that the two could take Sidious in combat. Dooku was a fearsome duelist, and even more so, Ventress was much like her master. The two of them would embark to Coruscant, preparing to meet with the Dark Lord of the Sith himself. Dooku told Sidious that he wanted to meet inside of the industrial complex that housed Sidious's Sith lair. Palpatine wasn't dumb. He knew that Dooku was planning to do something erratic, and so he prepared himself for a duel. Palpatine waited patiently, as ever, for his apprentice to arrive. He saw this almost as ironic, as he played his master only a decade beforehand, having Darth Maul at his side so that he could overthrow Plagueis. Now, the tables had turned. Palpatine hadn't spent so much time preparing for the death of the Jedi to be overran and be killed by a former Jedi and that Jedi's pet. Sidious's internal thoughts focused outwardly, angrily, and then he saw the shadow casting through the sunset-covered skyline of Coruscant's industrial sector. When the ship landed, Sidious did as he normally did, going to greet Tyrannus. Dooku left the ship and greeted his master, and Sidious was rather curious as to why nothing seemed array. Everything went normally. Sidious was beginning to lower his guard. It didn't seem that Dooku was here to actually extract revenge on him. Maybe he actually killed Ventress. It was possible. However, was it likely? Sidious thought it was unlikely that he would betray him from the beginning. Yet, it seemed evident as anything that the move to come to Coruscant was. The 2 lightsabers rang out from the ceiling of the room that Dooku and Sidious were in. Sidious was caught off guard as Dooku jumped in front of Sidious to block the lightsaber attack. It wasn't that Ventress would have killed Sidious, because Sidious was fast enough to react, but the surprise covered Sidious's face as he watched Master and Apprentice duel. It amused him. He realized that Dooku had come to protect him. Sidious watched the duel while smiling, below two glowing eyes and the shadow of his cloak. All of a sudden, Dooku was thrown back behind Sidious as Ventress lunged forward and collided her blades with Sidious. Sidious didn't expect Dooku to fall so easily, and so he combated Ventress swiftly. As Sidious focused on Ventress, he heard a blade behind him ignite, and so he moved out of the way as fast as he could, but not before Dooku's tilted blade cut through the arm of Darth Sidious. Palpatine howled in pain as he looked back in shock at his apprentice. He didn't know what to do. There was so much wrong with what had just happened. Sidious stood back, looking at both of his adversaries, who began to corner him. The weakest link was Ventress, and Sidious knew he had to kill her first. Dooku lunged forward but stopped before he committed, as Sidious reacted to the movement, to be caught off guard by the attack of Ventress. Her blade passed right before Sidious's nose, and he used his hand to pass his blade into her stomach. Dooku gasped as he heard his apprentice whimper in pain. She looked over at him, but it didn't take long for her to be thrown back across the room by Sidious. Dooku threw his blade forward, losing control and balance. He did truly care for Ventress, and this broke his heart. Swings began to spin into attack by Dooku's hand, but they were all easily deflected and then used back against him by the overwhelmingly powerful Sidious. Dooku fell back as Sidious laughed maniacally. A blade plunged into the chest of Dooku, killing him instantaneously, as Ventress tried to cower away. Sidious laughed as electricity ran out into her back. Not long later, she was dead, alongside of her master. Palpatine would need a hand to be constructed, and so he requested one made with Beskar on the hand's inner layer. On the other side of Coruscant, inside of the Jedi Temple, Master Yoda sat awake, feeling through the Force that something was wrong, and he knew that his former apprentice had been killed, but by who or why? Yoda's attachment to his apprentice made him realize the death was closer than he originally thought it were when he first felt the disturbance. As the weeks would pass by, the Republic would find no information from Grievous's lair, but the cunning development was the location of the Sith's hidden base on Coruscant. Something was awry in the atmosphere. The dark side felt closer than ever before. Yoda had some Jedi Masters check the inside of the Sith compound, while Yoda, Mace, and Plo Koon traveled down below the Jedi Temple grounds. There was an ancient Sith temple below, and they were going to learn how to destroy it. On the other hand, while Sidious had a new arm and a story for how he lost it, he needed a new apprentice. Someone to draw Anakin closer to the dark side. While another Jedi would be a poor choice, there was a Jedi who would be a perfect fit for him. While the Clone Wars was still young, there was a Jedi that was known as the Butcher of the Rim. His name was Pong Krell. He had a massive casualty count in the short period with the clone troopers under his command. He was reckless, and he was a vile Jedi, but even more than that, he was a powerful Jedi. Palpatine would begin to target Pong Krell for short-term use, which turned out to be a bright idea, because he was easily influenced by the dark side of the Force. Over the months that it would take to influence Pong into the dark side of the Force, the Jedi would eventually be able to reduce the Sith temple below the Jedi temple into ashes. The power of the dark side on Coruscant began to reduce. As Pong entered the Separatist ranks, he became a Jedi killer, known for bringing havoc across the Republic. The public began to damn the Jedi, even more for having two members to be outward traitors to the Republic. And while the negative attention wasn't helpful, the lack of a Sith temple made the Jedi's vision on the Force a lot clearer, and with such clarity, they were able to help Anakin Skywalker even more. Though, for the Jedi, issues would arise when Anakin began to get into combat with Pong Krell in the second year of combat. Pong had been following Anakin around battlefront to battlefront, looking for an opportunity to get him into combat, to begin filling his minds with the seed of evil. While Pong was feeling aware of the Jedi losing the war, he was ignorant of his place in Palpatine's grand scheme of galaxy domination. Eventually, Anakin and Krell would interlock in deadly combat. This combat would have Anakin angrily trying to best the Jedi who fell. Meanwhile, Pong continuously filled Anakin's mind with feelings of the dark side, telling him the powers that he could achieve if he only turned to the one and only true power in the Force. As the combat slowed, and Anakin and Krell began shadowing each other across their duel, walking around in circles while talking at each other. Krell told Anakin that there was a larger power in the galaxy, one atop of the Republic, one who was quite fond of Anakin. It didn't take long for Anakin to deduce what Obi-Wan had been told on Geonosis and what he had just been told by Pong Krell, that Chancellor Palpatine was behind everything. Pong Krell then gave Anakin an opportunity, the opportunity to use this information to kill Palpatine. Pong then commented that he almost lost to Dooku and Ventress. It was almost an assured victory if the two of them teamed up to stop the face of evil in the galaxy. Anakin sheathed his lightsaber and then looked at Krell and agreed with the offer. The two of them would shake on a joint effort to kill the Sith Lord in the galaxy known as Sidious. It would take months for their plan to come together. Anakin wouldn't leave the Jedi, but he also wouldn't allude to doing this. He cared too much for Kenobi and Ahsoka that he didn't want them taking any of the heat for killing the Chancellor. Anakin knew that if they won, the Jedi would be blamed. But Anakin had another motive, to sway the decision of the Republic from not blaming the Jedi. Anakin was at this time more favorable towards the Jedi because the Jedi Order hadn't done anything to make him distrust them. They'd actually been acting kind to them. Sidious requested Pong to the industrial sector so that they could discuss their future plans. The final year of combat was upon them, and they needed to act fast to ensure the downfall of the Jedi, and so Krell made his way to the industrial sector. Anakin was en route, slowly behind Krell. Krell arrived and began to converse with his master, the Dark Lord of the Sith, and then a small aircraft could be heard. Sidious was confused, but when Krell threw his lightsaber at him, he realized what was happening. Sidious caught the lightsaber with his Beskar hand and twisted it away from him. Using lightning, he shot Pong Krell back into the ship he arrived on. Anakin ran over and saw Palpatine looking at Krell. Palpatine stuttered back, but before his lightsabers could be ignited, Anakin was poised for combat as Pong Krell got to his feet. Krell moved in first as Sidious swung himself around, blocking the attack of the heavy duelist. Anakin joined the combat, focusing himself in the light, not bowing down to the power of the dark, no matter what either of them said to him. Anakin and Pong moved around Sidious, forcing the Sith Lord to be active on both sides of the fight. Neither of them could be singled out. They were much too powerful. Anakin at this point was an equal to Krell, if not even more powerful than him, both of which were more powerful than Ventress at this time. Anakin pushed in, and then Krell did simultaneously. Sidious then pushed his blades out, trying to deflect, but he missed Anakin's, as the blade plunged into the Sith Lord's thigh. It was a low strike, but Sidious fell to the ground immediately, as a second staff from Krell swung down and connected with Sidious's back, cutting the Sith Lord into two pieces. Anakin wasn't finished though. Lunging forward, he caught Pong off guard and drove his blade into the assassin's chest. Krell was so focused on the victory, he never sensed Anakin's quick movement. Anakin fell back and breathed heavily. He never would have been able to beat Sidious alone. He was far too powerful. Anakin also knew that Pong would have been too much even for him if he hadn't taken advantage of the situation. Anakin returned to the Jedi Temple and got in contact with Master Yoda immediately, informing him over everything that had just happened. Yoda could tell that Anakin was a bit winded from the situation. Yoda told Anakin that the Jedi would investigate and report back to the Senate. The Republic would take advantage of the gap in the Separatist leadership as they pressed on advantage into factory planets. The Republic crushed droid foundries and took key systems, while the Separatists regathered their leadership without Sidious. Meanwhile, the Republic found out that it was Pong Krell, former Jedi, that had killed the Supreme Chancellor. The Republic issued a mandate on all Jedi that if one of their members committed an act of treason, treachery, or anything else to inhibit the actions of the Republic war effort, the Jedi would be barred from the Republic. Though, this would not happen. With the lack of the Sith Temple on Coruscant, the Jedi would be able to find inner peace, while supporting the Grand Army of the Republic in its efforts to bring peace to the galaxy. By the time the war ended, Ahsoka Tano was a Jedi Knight, and Anakin Skywalker a Jedi Master. Barriss Offee would never bomb the Jedi Temple and blame Ahsoka, because the Jedi's active movement to stay in the light during the time of the war. The Jedi also made sure that Jedi that didn't want to serve in the Galactic Army of the Republic would be allowed to work precisely on mercy missions. These mercy missions alone would focus on the crime lords in the Outer Rim and begin to end slavery and other types of crime that have been seen out there outside of Republic power or jurisdiction during the war effort. After more than 5 years of combat, the Clone Wars would eventually come to an end. The galaxy itself would find itself in a new era of peace. By this time, Luke and Leia had been born and they were 4 years old, and their Force essence would be kept from the Jedi and hidden by Anakin. And that is our story, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Before we go any further, how you win a lightsaber is you go into the dock link down below, in the comments section. Go click on it, go write your name down if you want a chance to win a free lightsaber. We're giving away one on June 4th, which is about 2.5 weeks away. Also, here is the next video that will be premiering on the channel. And now let's talk about the story that we just listened to. I think the story was a bit different, definitely interesting. It was really hard to do, I'm not gonna lie, because after Kit Fisto killed Grievous, I didn't really know where to go with it, so I wanted to make sure that Grievous had, or that, not Grievous, but the Separatists had a different outlook than they did going into the war. You know, they'd have to change things around. I think Dooku, if he put Ventress in the power, I think he would have gone to fight Sidious if he was told to kill her. And I don't think they would win. I think they would be able to surprise him. And I think the fight between Sidious both times is kind of interesting. Krell and Anakin teaming up is something that I never really envisioned going into this as something coming out of it. But honestly, I think it's one of the cooler collabs in any of the videos that I've done. If I'm being honest, it didn't last for long, but I think it was kind of a cool collab seeing Anakin and Krell work together there. It's just something I never really thought about before. But I do hope you guys enjoyed this. This is a rather short video, not as full as my other stories. I'm working on a really big story for the end of the month, so stay tuned for that. I'm putting a lot into it. Again, thank you to George Story for being a grand tier, the highest paying member on the Patreon. I really appreciate it. If you do want to support the channel, that is down below. Otherwise, guys, thank you all again for watching. Like, share, subscribe, do the things. Otherwise, I love you all, spread the love, and always remember, my friends, may the Force be with you.